I'm very fond of this particular interior designer and I'm going to make sure he or she is going to design my home. मुझे तो इनसे ही डिजाइन करवाना है. This is what I usually hear from people that walk into my store or my studio, and I get quite shocked that people have these sort of assumptions and they have already done their homework. They're pretty sure who's going to design their home and who's going to, really give the structure of their space. So there's certain important things that you need to know if you're a first time homeowner or you're somebody who's renovating your space probably after 20, 30 years. Because 20, 30 years back, actually there was no interior designer. कोई था ही नहीं. तब सब लोग अपने आप करते थे. There was a basic, white में yellow mix करके beige बनाओ and just paint the whole house in that color. And there was nobody जो आपको guide करता था कि every particular room की designing कैसी होगी. If it's an elder person's room or if it's a child's room, what are the different briefs that are required? So आजकल I feel that everybody has their priorities set. They know what they want, and that's how they actually approach us also. So would like to give you a brief and I would say probably a detailed version of what to think before you choose the right kind of designer for your space. I would say the first would be try and meet as many designers as possible. It doesn't have to be one or two. Don't feel embarrassed because we as designers, we are very used to of conducting meetings and then not getting selecting at it. So it's okay. I mean, just go for these meetings. Tell them to show you the presentations they've already made for you. Send them your layouts. And probably you can ask them for more and more of projects that they did previously before you. See what the taste of the designer is. Before even touching the budget part and discussing the pricing, just see the work they're doing because that's the main thing. If you don't align with a designer, because no matter what you want, everybody has a signature way of doing their work. Like I would have a signature way of dressing up and dressing my home. Similarly, everybody has. So if, for example, you see the work of Zaha Hadid, of course, the legend, she had her own signature style, which is, of course, just Zaha Hadid. And if it's somebody who likes to do very Indian rooted sort of space, like adding elements from good earth, natural linen, or maybe, how Sarita Handa tries and does her work. So that's very different. So you need to be very sure what is your taste and is the designer actually aligning with your taste. I think if you see a couple of presentations, if you meet about 5 to 6 people, it's fair enough because I'm sure you also read and you see their websites, you have already followed them all on Instagram. So it's pretty easy. But yes, when you meet them in person, just see what is the kind of work nature, work culture, a bit of glimpse, how things are. Is there enough staff? When you actually hire someone and you pay them for a consultation, you expect deliverables also on time, which is sometimes really missing in some of the architects. So that's the first thing I would say. Don't be shy. Just go meet as many people you want because that is your dream home. For them, they are going to have 10, 20, 50 projects in hand. But for you, that's a house which is going to stay forever. So please go ahead and meet as many people you want. Then comes the next part. So you've already selected someone. So the next part is discussing the budget. So there's the budget clarity versus the budget fantasy. So you might just tell them, this is a picture, this is how I want. And there could be chances the designer, just to entice you and have the project in hand, might just tell you that so and so numbers will be considered. We'll be able to make it in this particular amount. Please don't stop there because at the end, when you have to clear the account and pay the bills, you will see a different number altogether. So please unko bolo that I need a BOQ. BOQ for my audience is the bill of quantities. That's very important. Just tell them to place some sort of furniture, panelings, take the per square feet prices of their consultation, the furniture pieces, the kitchen, the wardrobes, and the bathrooms, ceilings, everything. Just put it down. And of course, expect like a 5 to 6% of an increase or decrease in the quotation, which is obviously an increase always. So that is okay, but at least you know what is the ballpark figure. You know where you're landing. Just don't keep it a mystery. You need to solve this mystery at the first step because it's your hard earned money and you really need to be sure what you're spending. Third, I would like to discuss would be that the timelines. I just feel that the timelines are mostly not decided. So, an annexure which also applies on all the stages of how your work will be, from setting the spatial planning, or probably from creating a mood for the space, like a concept board. Then the placing of the furniture. यहाँ bed चाहिए, यहाँ sofa चाहिए, यहाँ chair चाहिए, everything that to the final handover, like the day you step in for a puja and you start living in the house. Everything needs to be sorted and laid in advance. You need to know what is going to happen at what stage and are you really going to complete it in that particular time. Say for an example, it's an apartment which is about 2500 square feet of, carpet area. So roughly, I guess about 90 days is something you need. If it's a 3 or a 4 BHK with a living room, what happens is if you're doing the wardrobes also and you're doing the kitchen also, sometimes the kitchen is already done by the real estate company or the builder. If you still have the scope of kitchen and wardrobes, what you can do is that, of course, being interior designers, you have to outsource it. So you try and build up a system wherein the carpenters, the wardrobe people, the kitchen guys, everybody is aligned, given work in advance. And then your drawings, your panelings, your site work is getting done. So all 3 or 4 different teams are working at the same time, but they're not like intersecting with each other. So once this 3 month or 3.5 month tenure is completed, I'm ready with my interior, my carpenter is ready with the paneling, the polisher is on the touch up, and the kitchen is ready to be installed, which will take just 3 to 4 days. So this kind of a stage planning really helps you analyze what is the kind of time मुझे दिवाली पे move होना है, that is the time I want the muhurat to take place, or I'm getting married, so that has to happen before I get married. That is not the kind of statements you tell your architect. One very important thing for the clients, I would request you, please start doing this interior hunting and the work, everything in advance. Take more than like 4 to 5 months when you start choosing your interior designer. It is better when your architecture work is happening, you try and do the survey. Also, secondly, if you've chosen the guy, it's always better that you align your architect with the interior designer so that they both know what's going to happen. The architect will give a brief framework of what he or she is doing. Then the interior designer will follow, and he or she will also consider taking in consideration what sort of partitions are going to be there, what is the column, where is the beam, everything. So if they both align with each other, instead of interfering, I think the work will be smooth enough. Sometimes it's also seen that very good architects are also qualified interior designers. So in that case, it's a one-man show. They know their work really well. So you just need to make sure that the stage planning is there. So you also are patient, you are transparent, and even they know what's happening. So just a request, to avoid the kind of chaos we go through all the time, just hire someone who gives you this sort of stage planning. I would say the most interesting one is that, people have hired designers not because they want their work to be done in a certain time. They've hired somebody because he or she has done that sort of education, the qualification, those thousand hours of research study to design somebody's space in a manner how they wanted. So my request to the clients would be here that please don't interfere or sabotage the whole idea of designing, mapping your home. Of course, it's very good if you provide me or somebody else with a reference. You have a picture from Pinterest or Instagram or some other person's project that you like. It's very good you share that reference because then it helps us mold the entire space around it. But just telling us that I want this bed, I want this wardrobe, I want this color, everything, it really kind of restricts the entire space. We are unable to breathe in that atmosphere. We really want a free canvas. And of course, I will make sure, or anybody will have to make sure, that the end user is happy with what we design. So it's, anyways, your dream home, you have to live. It's nothing that we can, impose or like force on you. So it has to be a balance wherein you give your referencing. So recently I had a project wherein young guy, like a bachelor, he told me that I want my room to be in an industrial theme. So he shared a couple of references which were like of a mill, reclaimed wood, some nails, and exposed kind of furniture. But then when we had a meeting, I created a mood board, a concept board, wherein I layered that sort of industrial elements with a lot of oak wood. Why oak wood? Because, it gives a lot of warm texture to the cold concrete or the cement. And I made him understand that, of course, we can't do the entire closet staying in India open because it's hard to maintain. We will give shutters which will be concrete or a cement finished, like based out of probably micro topping texture, or a sort of veneer which is very rugged or natural. So I was quite happy that the kind of feedback I got was very positive. He was really happy that, I considered the industrial part, but at the same time, to align his room with the entire apartment, I considered warmer tones. Because imagine if, you have a room which is industrial and it opens up in your living room, and suddenly the living room has a Bali sort of a vibe. It's not going to look like a story. It's going to be like different chapters from different books printed and published together. So I don't think we want that, right? So, third is that, of course, you give your references, but you make sure you give the sort of breathing space to the designer. And trust me, he or she will do their best to make that space look the way you always wanted. Lastly, I would just like to say how to know that a designer is right for you. So, certain emotional points, this is, I would say, somewhat regardless of the qualification and the expertise. Just be careful, like if you feel somebody is really, you would know if somebody is trying to trap you in the very first meeting. They would try and offer you maximum things and try and force you. The follow-ups will happen, everything will happen because they want that project. But probably once you've paid the first installment, things will not be the same. So you need to be careful about that. Secondly, like I mentioned in the first point, that taste really matters. Everybody has a good taste when it comes to interior designers or architects, but it's important to know that are they aligning with your taste or not. If I like minimalism, I like that kind of furniture, clean lines, straight, everything, I cannot hire someone who's doing bold colors, bold cushions, and too much of prints. That is not me. I saw an article online and I loved it, that you need to hire someone who is actually happy from within. So, this is my first home, or I'm getting married, or I just bought a house for my parents who were living in a rented space. That feeling is very different, that happiness is very different. So, if I'm going for an architect or an interior designer who's not happy, is depressed, and I don't know how people will take this, but is not like self aligned and content, I don't know how he or she will make my happy space look happy. So it's a very small thing, but I guess that's very important. If somebody is overall nature wise a little polite, soft, it need not be very chirpy. I'm not very chirpy by nature, but I like to greet my people. I like to be polite to them. I like to offer them things to eat or drink when they are for a meeting at my space. So you need to really see that, because these small things, that journey of creating your house, be it 3 months, 6 months, or a year, it's a long journey. And you need to know that how you choose your life partner or how you choose your friends, you have that option of choosing this guy or this female for your home. So be very careful. Just consider this emotional aspect as well. Anybody who's rude, really tough on you, might just not work, because in the starting you might just accept, later on you and the other family members might just have a problem with that. So to sum up, these are the little points you need to consider while you choose the right designer for your home. And I would wish you all the best, and just go for the instinct that you have for the person, and I guess you will end up acing your project. Thank you.